When the winds of judgment rise, love must decide to hide or to stand firm in the rain. In the small dusty town of Redemption Creek, whispers travel faster than a tumbleweed in a gale. And lately, those whispers all carried the same two names, Jack and Clara, inside the town's general store, a hub for both supplies and speculation. The air was thick with gossip. Two women, their faces pinched with disapproval, huddled behind the worn wooden counter. "Heard he's been spending time with that baker girl again," one of them muttered, rearranging a stack of canned beans without looking up. The other woman snickered, a sharp, unpleasant sound. "She's sweet, sure. A bit plain for a man like Jack, though. But he'll come to his senses soon enough. A man needs a wife who's presentable." Just then, the bell above the door chimed. Jack strode in, his broad shoulders filling the doorway. The dust from the trail settled on his worn boots as he moved with a quiet confidence toward the back shelves, grabbing flour and a tin of coffee. He moved like a man who knew his purpose, who belonged to the land, but the hushed tones didn't escape him. He stopped, his hand hovering over a sack of sugar, his jaw tightening almost imperceptibly. He turned slowly, his eyes, usually calm as a summer sky, now holding a gathering storm. His voice, when he spoke, was low but cut through the air like a whip. "Ladies," he began, his gaze steady and unwavering. "You ever tasted her food? Her bread is the kind that makes you remember home, even if you ain't ever had one. Or have you seen the way she treats folks? She gave old man Hemlock a free loaf every week last winter when his pension ran dry. Never asked for a thing in return." He took a step closer, his presence commanding the small space. "She's worth 10 of anyone talking bad about her. Maybe you ought to spend more time checking your own hearts and less time judging hers." A shocked silence fell over the store. The women stared, their mouths slightly agape. Their gossip withered under his glare. Without another word, Jack turned, paid for his supplies with a clatter of coins, and walked out. The door slammed shut behind him, punctuating the silence he left in his wake. The sky, as if mirroring Jack's fury, had turned a bruised purple. Rain began to fall, first as gentle drops, then as a torrential downpour, turning the dusty streets into rivers of mud. At the bakery, Clara was just turning the key in the lock, the closed sign swinging in the rising wind. The aroma of day-old bread still clung to the air, a comforting scent against the storm's fury. Suddenly, she heard the frantic beat of hooves splashing through the puddles. She looked up, her heart leaping into her throat. It was Jack, riding hard, his hat long gone, and his hair plastered to his forehead. He swung himself off his horse, landing heavily on the soaked ground, his eyes blazing with an emotion she couldn't quite decipher. "Jack!" she cried out, her voice filled with worry as she rushed towards him. "You'll catch your death of a cold riding out in this weather. What on earth is wrong?" He was panting, his chest heaving, raindrops running down his face like tears. "Couldn't stay quiet, Clara. I couldn't just stand there and let them." "Let them what?" she asked, her brow furrowed with confusion. "They been talking," he said, his voice rough. "At the store, all over town, saying you ain't good enough for me." Clara's shoulders slumped. The light in her eyes flickered and died, and she lowered her gaze to the muddy ground. The rain suddenly felt colder. "They're not wrong, Jack," she whispered, her voice trembling so badly she could barely form the words. "I'm not like the other girls. I can't give you beauty, or a high standing, or—" "Stop." Jack's voice was sharp, interrupting her self-deprecation. He stepped closer, closing the space between them until he was all she could see. "Don't you ever say that again." Just then, a brilliant fork of lightning split the sky, illuminating his face. It was fierce, determined, and filled with a tenderness that stole her breath. He reached out and took her hand, his calloused palm warm and strong around hers. "You gave me peace, Clara," he said, his voice dropping to a soft but powerful rumble that she felt deep in her soul. "You gave me warmth on days I thought I'd freeze. You gave me a reason to come home. You think I care what you look like. You think I care what they say." He squeezed her hand. "You're my heart, Clara Mae." A gasp escaped her lips. The words she'd only ever dreamed of hearing were being spoken to her in the middle of a thunderstorm by the one man she thought she could never have. Tears welled in her eyes, mixing with the relentless rain on her cheeks. "Jack," she choked out, her voice breaking. Don't say things you don't mean." "I mean every damn word," he said, his voice thick with emotion. He pulled her closer, his other hand coming up to cup her face. They stood there, two souls under the tempestuous sky, the rain plastering their clothes to their skin, the world outside their small circle fading away. His voice trembled, stripped bare of all pretense. "Clara Mae, I've worked this land since I was a boy. I've broken wild horses that no one else would touch. I've fought fires and floods and storms that would have broken a lesser man, but none of that scared me half as much as the thought of losing you." Her own hand came up to touch his rain-slicked cheek. The rough stubble, the warmth of his skin, the sincerity in his eyes. It was all too much. "I've never been loved like this before, Jack," she whispered, her voice a fragile thing against the roar of the thunder. He leaned in, their foreheads touching, their breath mingling in the cold air. "Then let me be the first," he vowed, his voice a solemn promise. And the last. A tender silence fell between them, broken only by the sound of the rain. It was a baptism, washing away the whispers, the doubts, and the insecurities. In that moment, they were not the quiet baker and the rugged rancher. They were just Jack and Clara, finding their truth in the heart of the storm. In a town that only saw flaws, he saw forever. And under the storm, they finally stopped pretending to be less than they were. Thank you so much for joining us for this story. If you were moved by Jack and Clara's journey, please let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more tales of love and courage. We'll see you next time.